Howdy, howdy, howdy. My name's Nashi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In this episode, we're going to be finishing off the 1300s with Cave Apparition, Jovian Killsats, a failed work of art, Hateful Dead, and Another Way of Hearing. So, I keep reading that as Cave Johnson, so I guess it's time to play Portal 2 again. It's Euclid. Foundation agents shall work with the governments of Greece and the European Union to suppress public knowledge of 1395. Also, the website looks weird again. A barbed wire fence measuring 3 meters in height and 20 meters in length shall be erected to prevent unauthorized access to 1395. Also, they wrote meters like that, so this was written by someone who's European. With at least 3 security outposts stationed in the surrounding area. Unauthorized civilians attempting to access 1395 shall be administered Class B amnestics and redirected elsewhere. And there's the entrance to it. Description: SCP-1395 is a cave located near Mount somewhere in Greece. Carbon dating of human remains and artifacts present within the cave suggest human habitation first began around something 100 BCE, which is consistent with A's claimed history, see below. Surveys conducted by Foundation personnel suggest a depth of at least 500 meters. It used to say further exploration of the cave is scheduled pending approval, and now its request no longer accepted, see Addendum A, which is here. Cool. 1395's anomalous properties manifest when persons travel approximately 300 meters inside the cave. After reaching this point, A will manifest, blocking the path leading deeper into the cave, though not with any apparent hostile intent. A is a humanoid entity appearing to observers as a silhouetted apparition roughly 1.8 meters in height. Though it will not forcefully impede any attempts to leave the cave, blank percent of persons encountering A report a strong desire to stay within its presence. A identifies itself as blank and claims that it lived in the ancient Greek city-state of Charistus around something 100 BCE. Through unknown means, it was bound to the cave, see interview log, and apparently cannot manifest anywhere outside of it. A speaks in the native language of whomever it is addressing. When questioned, however, it will insist it is speaking Attic Greek, possibly Attic Greek. If approached by an individual or group, A will engage the subjects in conversation, appearing to derive pleasure from describing and recounting its presumed life. Following the encounter, A will demanifest, erasing all memories of the encounter from the individual's mind. This will likewise affect written material, rendering writing on any sort of physical surface during the event illegible. However, digital records are not affected, making recording equipment a necessity when interacting with A. And now we have an interview log. Is it just the one interview? Looks like it's just the one interview. Okay. Hello, SCP-1395-A. Another has come. For so long there was nothing. Nothing! And now it seems the visits have become more frequent. How so? Time is a difficult thing to measure in the void. The days and the months and years fold in and collapse upon the weight of the blackness, but I managed. You and your Foundation, was it? You have an interest in me. We do, yes. Specifically, we would like to inquire about the details of your current condition and its origins. Ask. I will answer, though I must confess my memories have faded over time. You claim to have been a man living in Charistus during the ancient Greek era, is that true? Ancient? That you would use such a term tells me a very long time has passed indeed. I wonder what has become of my home. Please answer the question. Yes, I once called Charistus my home. I was a simple merchant, living a comfortable existence. I was not wealthy, but neither was I starving, which is more than I could say for many of my countrymen. How did you first encounter this cave? Was a warm day in spring, or was it summer? I cannot remember. Business was good, despite a few thieves trying to take from my stall. I was about to close up for the day when an old man came up to my stall. He was a beggar and asked for a few morsels to subsist off of. Naturally, I refused. Why? It was a time of famine. The crops had dried up inexplicably, and people were desperately sacrificing to the gods to reverse our fortune. I'm not heartless, but had I given food out to everyone who asked, I would have been broke in 3 days. I see. What happened next? He stared at me. A more deadly and intent gaze I have yet to encounter. He cursed me in the name of the Pantheon and declared me forsaken in the eyes of the gods. I assumed he was a priest as he had the curse memorized. What did he do after that? He ran. He thought correctly that I would give him a good thrashing for cursing me such a way. How long was it before you found yourself in this state? 4 months. Nothing occurred in the intervening time aside from the usual fluctuations in business familiar to any merchant. It was the beginning of the cold season, and I had closed my shop for the evening when I was attacked by a thug. It was over in a few moments. I felt his blade go through me and my life deteriorate. And then the blackness, Yes? It has been an eternity, yet I still remember his eyes. Those eyes, I felt as if I could see Hades through them, as if he were possessed by the gods themselves. Moving on. How long was it until you were first discovered? Do you remember what I told you earlier? The time moves differently in the void. It is difficult to describe to a presence of flesh, but if I were to estimate, I would say a few decades. Describe your first contact with a human. A distortion is heard, presumed to be laughter of some sort. I was not as composed as I am now. The first one I met was an old one, an Athenian, judging by his attire. I screamed, so he ran naturally. Then I felt myself imparting something upon him, and I vanished once more. The amnesiac effect you have? If that is what you would refer to it as, yes. It went like that during my first awakenings. A traveler chanced upon my cave, I appeared, they ran, and they forgot. It was not until some time later that I had my first true conversation. Do you remember what this person looked like? He was dressed in a form of armor I did not recognize, and a strange cross symbol upon his chest. I assumed he was a foreigner, yet he spoke Greek despite his insistence he was speaking a language called Anglisk? How did he react to you? I had composed myself to the point where appearing was no longer a shock, so I greeted him. He asked if I was the ghost of a Christ. When I said no, he asked if I was another fellow named Peter. This went on for a while until I explained my origin, as I am to you now. We talked for a while, then he left. This is how your meetings have gone since? I suppose so, yes. I'm not some trickster god looking to fool those who speak to me. I'm merely a restless, lonely soul looking for a way to stem the eternal emptiness for a time. One final question. Your amnesiac effect is not voluntary, correct? Making them forget? Oh, of course not. Would love for people to return. I suspect it was part of the curse. What sort of suffering is worse than being alone forever? Thank you, SCP-1395-A. That will be all. Gestures to Doctor's tape recorder. These devices of yours, they allow you to remember? In a manner of speaking, yes. That is good. If you remember, return once more. The coldness, the void, it weighs upon me, and if I am never to leave this place, at least I shall have some company. A demanifest Doctor's memory of the encounter erased as expected. Since its discovery by Foundation personnel, A has been consistently cooperative. Further interviews are recommended in order to better understand its anomalous properties. But then there's an addendum. During exploration at some point, researchers managed to reach a depth of something 100 meters without encountering A. At this point, the team reportedly became unable to move, and all equipment carried by personnel ceased functioning. Dr. Blank claims that had briefly redacted shortly before going into catatonic shock and had to be transported out of the cave for medical assistance. When A was questioned on this occurrence, it replied, "Do not attempt to join me," and immediately demanifested. Both A and Dr. Blank have consistently refused to discuss the incident since the date, the latter claiming, "You wouldn't understand even if I told you." Following this incident, all survey requests proposing exploration past the 500-meter mark are now preemptively denied. So if we know it's past the 500-meter mark, why did you block out how many meters it took before that happened? Or I guess it's just so that nobody goes down there to find out what happens, because people will probably want to live forever. Damn the cost. Okay, next up is Jovian Killsats, which is also Euclid. SCP-1396 cannot be retrieved by any means currently available to the Foundation. However, as it has shown no hostility or intent to move from its current location, containment efforts limited to coordinating with NASA and other space agencies to prevent the public dissemination of information have been deemed sufficient for the foreseeable future. Description: SCP-1396 is a group of 5 unmarked weaponized artificial satellites of varying size orbiting the planet Jupiter at its L2 Lagrangian point. It appears to be of human origin, where and when they were constructed remains unknown, as well as how they were transported to their current location. One consists of a central hull coated with hexagonal ablative armor plates powered by what are believed to be radioisotope generators on the ends of 20? Where did I get 20 from? 3 evenly spaced booms, each approximately 25 meters in length. The central hull is estimated to have contained over 120 rod-shaped tungsten kinetic bombardment projectiles with an average mass of 220 kilograms, and its total loaded mass is estimated to have been approximately 254,000 kilograms. 2 was a satellite of identical profile and mass to 1. It is believed to have been rendered inactive during the events of Incident 38, see below. We do have that. 3 through 5 are all identical satellites of a smaller profile than 1, with generator boom length of 21 meters and an estimated loaded mass of approximately 168,000 kilograms. Each of these objects is estimated to have carried approximately 60 kinetic bombardment projectiles, averaging 90 kilograms in mass. All 3 satellites are inactive and presumed neutralized as of Incident 38, see below. SCP-1396 came to the Foundation's attention at some point, following the detection of an anomalous high-frequency radio signals of artificial origin by Foundation Interplanetary Probe Redacted near Io, or Io. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm not sure if I've ever heard it said out loud relating to the planet Jupiter. Later analysis of the recorded signals indicate that they may have been side lobes from synchronization and targeting data transmissions between the individual instances of 1396. And now for that there incident. Over a period of 18 months following initial discovery, Redacted recorded over 37 separate events in which 1396 initiated kinetic bombardment attacks against unknown targets within the atmosphere of Jupiter. Analysis of telemetry recorded during 11 of these events resulted in 1 or more high-energy events at or near the liquid surface of the planet, consistent with the kinetic impact of 1 or more bombardment projectiles with a solid body at that location. These incidents culminated in a final event at some point, during which high-velocity projectiles of an unknown shape and composition were launched from within the atmosphere towards instances of 1396, following which nearly the entire estimated remaining armament was expended against targets on or within the planet, resulting in an estimated 27 atmospheric impacts. During this exchange, all instances of 1396 except for 1 suffered extensive damage and were rendered inactive. No further bombardment events have been recorded since. Incident Log 39. At some point, permission was granted by Oversight to perform close-range analysis of 1396 utilizing the Redacted probe. Upon closing to a distance of approximately 25,000 kilometers, 1 initiated communication with Redacted using an encryption key unique to the Foundation. A transcript of the communication log with time delays removed follows. Mission accomplished within acceptable parameters. You're late. Who is this? Who do you think this is? I've been out here for 2 years hunting bugs, and I spent the last 6 months sitting here twiddling my thumbs and watching my buddies' corpses float around in space. Can we please go home now? Where are you from? What the fuck is wrong with you? Is this some kind of sick... Wait a minute. Forensic analysis of recorded transmissions indicate that at this point, 1 initiated routine network handshake synchronization request to which mission control computers automatically responded with a standard diagnostic data packet which included the current date and time. Oh shit. No further transmissions have been detected from 1396, and 1396 has not responded to any attempts at communication since. So either time travel happened, or they've been out there longer than they thought they had. Because I would assume time works differently the further away from the sun you get. I have no basis for thinking that, but I feel like that might be how that works. A failed work of art. I was wondering why it felt like I just did something bad. It's because my laptop is very, very, very low on memory. I've got 32 gigs of hard drive left. I gotta do something about that after this. SCP-1397 1 through 5 are contained in a single secure containment locker at Site-91, and they're considered safe. Copies of the text of all instances of 1397 are available and may be accessed by any researcher of Level 1 clearance or above. Experimentation involving any instance of 1397 requires Level 3 approval. Personnel reporting drowsiness or fatigue are not to be allowed within 10 meters of 1397's containment chamber. As of at some point in the 2000 something, Agents Browning and Murphy, along with several level 2 researchers, are stationed in Prague in order to track down the immediate family members of Mr. H and his artistic associates, and to determine the authors of 2 through 5. Alright. Description: SCP-1397 1 through 5 are a set of 5 travel guides that describe rural locations of former Czechoslovakia. The author of the 5 books is listed as one somebody. However, linguistic analysis of the text has indicated that each book was written by a different author. As no evidence of a somebody has been located, the name is most likely a pseudonym. While there is no copyright page or publisher information present, the information within the book suggests that they were written in the early 1950s. The anomalous effects of 1397 manifest when a human subject falls asleep or otherwise becomes unconscious within 5 meters of an instance of 1397. Subjects report finding themselves awake and standing in a location described in their particular instance of 1397 upon entering the unconscious state. Despite this, the subject's body does not move or vanish from its original location, and appears to remain unconscious. Surveillance reveals no anomalous activity at the locations the subjects claim to visit. Subjects' reports of their experiences differ, except for the presence of unrealistic and surreal events often referred to as dreamlike. In spite of this, many subjects will emphatically defend the reality of their experiences, even when provided with evidence to the contrary. Over time, the incidence of these dreamlike events increases. 92% of subjects awake naturally after a period of 8 to 12 hours. Subjects may also be awoken through normal means, with the same results. The 8% of subjects who do not awake after a period of 12 hours will cease all vital signs after being unconscious for a period of time ranging from 13 to 24 hours. Subjects who awake after having experienced the effects are confused and hostile and become nervous and upset when questioned about the reality of the perceived events. In addition, subjects express the belief that all of their dreams are in fact real events, accompanied with a fear of said dreams. These delusions may be treated with regular psychotherapy and often subside on their own within several months. Aside from these psychological events, all anomalous properties of 1397 cease upon the subject's awakening. A short message has been written in pen on the title pages of 2 through 5, see Addendum D. Handwriting analysis suggests that all 4 messages were written by the same individual. Okay, so Addendum A is an interview log. Interviewing D-1397-5. Interviewer Dr. J. 5 underwent testing with 1 and awoke after 11 hours. 30 minutes after 5's awakening, the following interview was conducted to determine the nature of their experience during these 11 hours. 5 was selected for her professed experience with lucid dreaming and her history of calm behavior during her time with the Foundation. D5, I'm going to say 5. Could you explain what you saw upon becoming unconscious? Well, after the tranks or whatever you gave me kicked in, I figure I'm dozing off, right? But the next thing you know, I'm wide awake, standing shin deep in warm mud. So I look around and there are a couple of pigs around, and after a little while I realize I'm in some kind of farm. And what did you do once you realized that? Well, I got out of the fucking pig pen. I figured I might as well take a look around. I saw the farmhouse a little while away, but I wasn't going anywhere near that thing. Thought it'd be pretty stupid if the test ended in me getting arrested for trespassing, right, Doc? Anyway, there was a barn, a couple of cows, and this huge-ass wheat field. Nothing weird about them as far as I could tell, so I strolled on out towards the woods on the edge of the fields, and that's when shit got weird. Could you elaborate on that? Well, I heard someone shouting at me, and I turned around and some lady standing outside of the farmhouse scared me half to death because I thought she'd be mad at me, but she just told me not to go into the woods because there were wolves in the woods. What did you think of that? Honestly, I was just wondering how she even knew I was out there. Then I figured, well, wolves are more scared of you than you are of them, right? Who the hell told you that? And I used to climb trees as a hobby, so I wasn't real scared. If anything, I figured it'd be kind of nice to see something interesting like that. So I just ignored her and headed on into the trees. Lots of brush to wade through, a couple of birds. But other than that, I didn't notice a thing out of place for, well, must have been an hour or so, I guess. What happened after that? I started hearing sounds from the bushes. At first I assumed it was a squirrel or a bunny or some shit, but then it kept happening and I didn't see anything around and, well, I wasn't scared, but I thought, if something is following me, I can't just let it get me. So I tried to speed up the pace a little, except I couldn't. My legs just wouldn't do it. And let me tell you, that was hella weird. But I told myself it was just the weird ass book doing weird ass shit. And I kept walking for what, 5 minutes until my clothes went away. Went away? Just went away. Like that fucking dream where you go out in public and realize, whoops, forgot my pants. Except, Doc, I was walking through some pretty thorny plants right before that, and I'm damn sure I noticed the exact moment I didn't have pants and shoes to protect me. So I stopped walking and had like 5 peaceful seconds to think about this before the shit hit the fan. You see, Doc, turns out the trees were the wolves. Could you explain that further, D13975? I don't fucking know. D5 pauses, takes several deep breaths. Sorry, I brushed against one of the trees and it all hit me at once. It wasn't a tree. None of them were trees. They'd never been trees. They were wolves, whole shitload of them. And they were staring at me with spit gleaming on their tongues, and I could see every hair on their faces. They were laughing at me, I swear. I could run again, and the moment I started running, I knew I wasn't dreaming. I'd never been dreaming. How can you be sure of that? Doc, you know how in dreams you can just accept the bizarro shit your mind throws at you? Like, it's just another part of the experience? This felt foreign, contrived. Like it was trying too hard to be weird, you know? I suppose. What happened after you ran, then? I got back to the field and it was more a blur of images than anything. I saw my mom standing there trying to talk to me, but all I heard was cawing like she was a fucking crow or something. Then I looked down and saw that I was fucking pregnant, and suddenly there was this armchair next to me, and I knew I'd given birth to it, and it talked to me, and it told me that I was running out of time, and the ground gave out under my feet. I fell, and I woke up, I guess, in the testing room. Can you tell me how you felt when you woke up? She is silent for about 15 seconds before speaking. Relieved. And can you tell me why that is? I got out. It let me get out. The dream, or whatever it was, Doc, I knew it wasn't a dream. And I think it knew that I'd found out, and that's why it got so weird at the end. It was trying to convince me that it was a dream. It felt frustrated, I guess? And if I'd stayed much longer, I don't think it would have let me out. Thank you, D5. That'll be all for now. Addendum B, the recovery log. SCP-13971 was originally recovered in 1950-something during a Foundation investigation of a group of Czechoslovak, I've never seen it written like that, surrealist authors, after reports indicated that the writers may have been involved with reports of unusual ritual activity suspected to relate to SCP-something-thousand-something. While the original reports were proven false, one member of the group, A.H., confessed under interrogation to involvement with creating an anomalous item and willingly handed over one, at the time believed to be the only one of its kind, to the Foundation. Mr. H expressed disgust towards the item, referring to it as his great failure, but refused to elaborate further. Mr. H was eventually administered Class C amnestics and released. As his associates were not, at the time, believed to be involved with the item, they were administered Class A amnestics and released. Samples of Mr. H's handwriting writing taken from his apartment suggest that he was the author of one. At some point in the 1990s, Mr. H and his former associates have been confirmed as deceased. So this dude wrote a book that messes with reality, and the way y'all decided to handle that was to erase his memories of it? At some point in the 2000s, students living in the dorms of Charles University in Prague reported symptoms similar to 1397 exposure, and something fatality occurred within these dorms. The Foundation successfully prevented media from learning of the event and administered Class B amnestics to surviving victims and witnesses. 2 through 5 were recovered from the hallways of the affected dorms, where they had been deliberately placed to expose a maximum number of students to the events. Over half of the affected students were discovered to have attended a lecture on solipsism and the psychology of dreams given by Professor Blankety Blank the previous day. Mr. Blank was fatally shot by Foundation agents after attempting to resist detainment with deadly force. His fingerprints were later found on 2 through 5. Analysis done on papers found within the apartment suggests that Blank is the author of the written message on the title pages of 2 through 5. A match has yet to be found for the writing styles of 2 through 5. Investigation is underway to determine whether any of Mr. H's blank known associates had any involvement with 1397. Addendum D, transcript of message written in 2 through 5. If they wanted us to see that dream and reality were one, was it to say that reality was a dream, or to say that a dream is a reality seen in a different light? Okay. So it doesn't sound like you have to read the books, just that the books have to be vibing somewhere nearby. And if that happens, then your dreams try to kill you. But it's probably not your dreams, it's probably a different reality. I swear that the beginning half of the 1300s was all weird stuff with cats, and the back end was all different realities. So this one is claimed to be safe. SCP-1398 is to be kept in a secure audio storage unit at Site 19. Playback of 1 must be conducted in a soundproof test chamber. Personnel administering testing must wear Type R noise-canceling radio headsets at all times. Test subjects are to be equipped with a standard personal microphones to allow communication with test operators and to facilitate transcription of 1 anomalies. Sedatives may be dispensed to the subjects at the discretion of test supervisors. Use of test subjects other than disposable dudes requires level 4 authorization. Testing involving the playback of 1 through 6 requires the approval of Dr. Espinoza and the presence of an EMTP during testing. Further playback of 1-1 is prohibited. So it's not 1 through, it's just 1-6, okay. SCP-1398 is a copy of the Grateful Dead album Skeletons from the Closet, the Best of Grateful Dead, contained on a standard 12-inch LP record. The record itself and the album cover are designated 1 and 2 respectively. The audio tracks contained on 1 are designated 1-1 through 1-11. The album was discovered at some point in 1994 by Agent Bittner while tending to the estate of her late uncle, somebody Kling, whatever. Questioning of the surviving friends revealed that the album was likely purchased new sometime in early 1977 from an unknown record store somewhere. Despite remaining in his personal record collection until his death, neither him or any other listeners were aware of the anomalous properties. 1398 is physically indistinguishable from other copies of the aforementioned album, with the exception of a slightly modified track list. Whereas typical albums list the first track as The Golden Road to Unlimited Devotion, it is instead listed as The Golden Road to Unlimited Blank on both 1 and 2. The anomalous properties of 1398 manifest when 1 is played in the presence of individuals capable of perceiving the anomalies. Such listeners report slight uneasiness and hearing substantial deviations from the recordings contained on the other copies of the album. Though the musical arrangements of songs remain unchanged, song lyrics are partially or completely altered to encompass tales and subjects markedly different from normal recordings. These changes, while consistent in their composition, are consistently heard by test subjects. Awareness of aberrant lyrics varies significantly among test subjects initially exposed to 1's playback. Most subjects are only able to discern changes in a single song, while some can perceive changes in multiple or even all songs. Okay, so out of an initial pool of 220 test subjects composed of 17 level 1 personnel and 211 disposable dudes, 14 level 1 personnel and 156 class Ds were able to perceive anomalies in only 1 song at an outset of testing. 32 were able to perceive at least partial anomalies in multiple songs, but not all of them. And 2 level 1 subjects and 22 disposable dudes were able to perceive partial lyrical anomalies in all of them. A small minority of test subjects are unable to perceive the anomalies in playback at all. A single level 1 test subject and a single disposable dude were unable to perceive the anomalies associated with 1 playback and instead heard it as an unremarkable album. Coupled with the data garnered at the initial recovery, the number of confirmed individuals unable to perceive 1's lyrical anomalies totals at 6. With the exception of those initially unable to perceive the anomalies, listeners undergoing repeated playback sessions are gradually able to both perceive additional lyric deviations and increase the regularity with which they hear them. However, this is accompanied by increased anxiety during sessions and a sharply decreased willingness to engage in further testing. Chemical sedation of test subjects has proved relatively successful in alleviating this issue. All attempts to record 1's anomalies, either directly from the record itself or using additional recording equipment during playback, have failed, instead producing recordings which bear no anomalies, lyrical or otherwise. To date, cataloging of lyrical deviations is estimated to be approximately 40% complete. All tracks are at least partially transcribed. See below for an overview of transcription progress. The first track, there's an addendum for it. Track 2. Description describes the aftermath of a worldwide nuclear exchange. Transcribe lyrics. DC hit the 2 or 3, Moscow blown clear to Tel Aviv, London nothing but debris, and no one's left to grieve. Let's see. Best adoration. Uncle John's band also has an addendum. Let's see. I've never heard any of these songs, so I don't know what the changes really would be. This is note, this is a synopsis of data gathered during test series 1-16. For full test data and transcription records, please see blank and TD 1398.1 through 16. Addendum A is redacted, so I guess we just don't get to know anything about what happens with that first track. Addendum B, or 1B. 6's overall content is difficult to determine at present. Transcribed portions contain an unspecified narrator discussing one or more unnamed entities. Lyrical anomalies thus far recorded consist only of 2 stanzas. He waits with a heavy heart for his progeny he grieves. Each day more return to him, yet even more go deceived. Long shall be his reign when he comes again. Look well for his signs and know when his blood will flow. Which replaces the 5th stanza and rejoice. He's waiting, arms open, held open wide. Each and all shall sing his blood, those who seek blah 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 blah. Which places the 7th and final stanza. What was 6 called? Uncle John's band? The first one is To the Golden Road. What is notable about 6 is its additional effect on perceptive test subjects. Listeners become markedly more agitated during playback of 6, with most immediately requesting cessation of playback. In 27 test subjects, this agitation was acute, requiring restraint of subject, and in 16 cases, culminating in syncope. In these acute cases, subjects appear to experience hallucinations, reacting to objects/actors that are not present, and appearing oblivious of the presence of research personnel. The precise nature of these episodes is difficult to ascertain, as test subjects are invariably uncooperative during playback and unable to recall having any hallucinations or hearing any lyrical anomalies afterwards. Subsequently, those displaying acute reactions to 1-6's anomalies consistently develop progressive cases of thanatophobia post-test. At the outset, subjects avoid items or activities which could reasonably cause harm, but increasingly overestimate any possible danger posed to their person. A single affected disposable dude allowed to continue 160 days past scheduled termination eventually refused to consume any solid food for fear of asphyxiation and reacted hysterically to all requests that he leave his cell. Addendum 2. Limited testing of civilian subjects has been approved by blank and carried out at somebody's university under the guise of an auditory memory study. Subjects each limited to a single listening session with playback of 1 and 6 withheld. Out of 167 test subjects, only 3 were able to perceive anomalies during 1 playback. No additional lyrical anomalies were recorded. For full test data and transcription records, please see that which is not here. So it sounds like if you don't actually start off with track 1, that you might not hear anything at all, since they withheld the 2 tracks that are the most weird and they didn't hear anything. I guess at some point I'm going to have to listen to some Grateful Dead so that I can understand what kind of vibe this was actually supposed to have, because I don't think I've ever listened to Grateful Dead on purpose. And if I've heard them on the radio, I would not have known it was them. Anyway, another way of hearing. It's safe. We actually made it through the last 4 episodes of the 1300s with no Keeters. Wow. There certainly have been some things that sound like they could have been Keeters, but since they were actually able to be contained, I guess not. SCP-1399 is to be kept on a plain wooden desk in the middle of a locked room open to the last page, with a camera observing it at all times. If the page is observed to change in any way, notify the site administrator. Additionally, an adjacent room, henceforth designated as the observation room, is to be set up with a television and radio set to switch between several news channels on an 8-hour cycle. Description: SCP-1399 is a thin 15-page children's book titled Another Way of Hearing. The cover depicts the Earth with the title above it. There is no author indicated on the cover. Its ISBN correlates to no assigned ISBN, and its labeled publisher, Detiskia Books, corresponds to no recognized publishing company. When read sequentially, 1 page at a time in its entirety, it consists of a variety of disconnected visual images that have strongly associated auditory connections, along with the words Another Way of Hearing image. Page 3, for instance, is an image of a train, below which are the words Another Way of Hearing Trains. Save for the last page, all images and text have remained static while in Foundation hands. The anomalous effect of the book occurs once the last page is turned and the book is closed. Immediately, the reader ceases to be able to receive any auditory stimuli from the world around them. Instead, their eardrums will resonate in concert to what has been determined as the auditory stimuli of a variety of alternate worlds. That is, their hearing will be transposed to another reality. This phenomena extends only to hearing, with sight, touch, taste, smell, and less conventional senses apparently unaffected. It has been determined that the particular alternate universe to which the book attunes its reader is dependent on the last page, which changes periodically. All readers who experience the effect between changes have been determined to be hearing the same world. A list of recorded historical diversions and related images can be found in Document B. The last page so far has appeared to change at the same time as a variety of world-altering events occur. The book seems to reattune people's hearing to a world where that event occurred differently, usually in a catastrophically negative way. This phenomenon has been noted to create considerable distress among disposable dudes, due to disorientation from a difference in auditory and visual stimuli. For this reason, it is advised to provide any affected personnel with a pair of high-quality earplugs to assist with concentration during interviews and in the interest of preserving their sanity. Disposable dudes subjected to the effects of 1399 are exempt from monthly terminations until all possible acoustic mapping of the particular alternate reality has been completed. Document A. Page change procedure. If at any time the last page is observed to change, 3 disposable dudes are to be recruited on a voluntary basis. Due to their subsequent removal from monthly terminations, volunteers have proved relatively easy to find. To prevent complications, personnel are to be briefed on the effects of 1399 before exposure. Once subjected to it, the first is to be escorted to the previously established observation room. They are to be provided with a writing utensil and paper for them to record all possibly relevant information pertaining to the divergence. After 8 hours, conduct a written interview and rotate in the second D class. Continue process every 8 hours until all possible information has been collected. Document B, an abridged record of the observed forms of the last page and its apparent correlating world event divergences. March 12th, 2011, page changes. New page, an image of waves breaking on a sandy beach. Caption, another way of hearing waves. Associated world event, 9.0 magnitude earthquake in Japan. Established diversion. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant fails to stabilize and a core meltdown occurs. Superheated reactor steam breaks containment and escapes in large quantities, causing massive radiation and fallout over much of Japan. April 29th, page changes. New page, an image of church bells swinging at a chapel tower. Caption, another way of hearing bells. Associated world event, marriage of Kate Middleton and Prince William of Great Britain. Established diversion. Paramilitary commandos storm Westminster Abbey, murdering all present royal personages and state officials. As the beginning of a coup d'etat by a separatist faction, Britain descends into civil war. A lot of stuff happening in 2011, huh? June 3rd, 2011. An image of a fighter jet, another way of hearing planes. Attempted assassination of Yemen President Ali Abdullah Saleh? I don't know if I pronounced that right. Established diversion. After being taken to Saudi Arabia for medical treatment, a second assassination attempt occurs and succeeds. Israel's Mossad is implicated. Yemen declares war on Israel. Yemeni officials acquire nuclear weapons through undetermined channels and utilize them. Nearly all of Israel destroyed or contaminated, resulting in 15 MT explosion. Chain of retaliation takes place over a period of 12 hours, resulting in nuclear holocaust and presumed destruction of Foundation facility. D-class subjects suffered complete hearing loss due to the incineration of eardrums in both ears. August 27th. An image of a rainy day outside. Caption, another way of hearing rain. Associated world event, Hurricane Irene makes landfall. Established diversion, Hurricane Irene unexpectedly and inexplicably develops into a Category 5 storm and sweeps along the eastern seaboard, causing billions of dollars of damage. New York City is devastated, number of casualties unable to be estimated by D-class personnel. Well, dang. Yeah, I don't know what it was, but these last few episodes in alternate realities that are completely terrible, but the 1300s really just decided to go out with, like, the biggest non-Keter bang possible. So, that's going to do it for this episode of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. In the next episode, either we're going to actually start doing these one at a time like that one person recommended a few months ago, or I won't do that. We'll find out when it happens. So, if you like this video, a like and a subscribe will be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. If you want to click the bell, you can do that as well so that you're notified of future uploads. And I will see y'all in whatever form the next episode happens to take. Later.